your sister died in Paris that night. How alive in your memory is she now?
Very, and in so many...
From the moment she married Prince Charles in 1981, Princess Diana became the people's princess and was beloved all over.
This is the hug going viral today. Prince Harry and Princess Diana's brother.
30th anniversary in 2027, so producers and directors and film crews are looking at how they...
Because of William, because he's done. The Flashpoint centres on a proposed Netflix documentary series.
Using media in the same way that Princess Diana did. And I think that they believed that...
Tribute to your sister at the funeral. The fears you had then have not been realised.
I did inflict upon myself. I didn't like myself. I was ashamed that I couldn't cope with the pressures.
What did you...
Princess Diana's brother is making rare claims about the night she died. 4 years after an internal investigation...
Meghan and Harry have an incredibly twisted obsession with Princess Diana, and it's...
Why would you pay for Prince Harry and Meghan that much money if you aren't getting a little piece of Princess Diana?
It's Netflix that coughed up this significant amount of money. Ooh. I think it's to save face.
But he will have to weigh up whether it is the right thing to do. But for him, for the right thing to do for his...
To be the case, I was looking directly at William and Harry across her coffin as I delivered it.
36 years old. In his groundbreaking memoir published in January, Harry recalled the emotional experience of bringing...
These people had terrible things happen to them, life-altering. It was numbing. I felt...
Bashir met Princess Diana through her brother, Earl Spencer.
Well, the irony is that I met Martin Bashir as to the broader picture of how something like this could have happened.
And what are they?
Any of Harry and Meghan's other projects. The only value those two have are their royal connections.
There are moments when a family decides that a story has gone too far. And according to the account behind this story, one of those moments came when Charles Spencer was reportedly shown a proposed Netflix project centered on Diana and Meghan Markle. His alleged response? Is this a joke? 4 words. But if the account is accurate, those 4 words could have shut down far more than a television proposal.
Every day people tell me what an inspiration she was, how much they miss her, what they did the day she died. It's extraordinary.
They may have closed the door to Althorp, Diana's private legacy, and the exclusive material Netflix reportedly wanted most. Althorp House is more than an historic estate. It is deeply connected to 5 centuries of Spencer family history, and, most importantly, to Diana. Away from Buckingham Palace and the royal institution, Althorp represents a different side of her life: family memories, private photographs, personal possessions, archives, and the place where Diana rests. That is why Charles Spencer's reported involvement matters. He is not a working royal. He does not appear at royal ceremonies or speak on behalf of the monarchy. But he is Diana's brother. And according to the source account, that gave him something Netflix could not manufacture: direct authority over the private Spencer world surrounding Diana. For years, Diana's story has remained one of the most powerful stories in modern popular culture. Her marriage, her struggles, her relationship with the media, her death, and the continuing fascination surrounding her sons. For Harry and Meghan, Diana's legacy has also remained an important part of their public identity. But according to this account, Netflix allegedly saw an opportunity to take that connection even further. The timing appeared almost perfect. Diana's 30th death anniversary arrives in 2027, guaranteeing worldwide attention. Who told BBC that the funeral contained particular elements that reflected, quote, the affection with which the princess was held. A major documentary could revisit Diana's life while drawing comparisons between her experiences and Meghan Markle's own public story. According to the proposal described in the source, Meghan would not simply appear as Harry's wife. She would reportedly become part of the broader narrative. And that is where the situation allegedly became complicated. Because Netflix needed something more than another collection of old photographs and familiar interviews. It needed access. It needed Althorp. It needed private archives. And, according to the source account, it wanted access to material such as Diana's handwritten diaries and private home movies. That material could have transformed another Diana documentary into something genuinely exclusive. But then Charles Spencer reportedly saw Meghan Markle's name connected to the project. And instead of opening the door, the account says he pushed back. Is this a joke? The sentence is short. The implications are not. Because if the account is accurate, Charles Spencer was not simply rejecting a television concept. He was challenging the idea that Diana's private story could automatically be used as the foundation for another person's public narrative. And suddenly, the question became much bigger.
Diana's brother. All smiles, but the royal feud, still boiling.
Was this really about making a documentary? Or was Charles Spencer drawing a boundary around Diana's memory? According to the source, that concern allegedly went deeper than one Netflix proposal. The account points to years of comparisons between Meghan and Diana. Jewelry, imagery, public interviews, and especially Meghan's 2021 interview with Oprah. The source argues that these similarities created a broader impression that Diana's story was repeatedly being referenced as part of Meghan's own public narrative. That does not prove that Meghan intended to imitate Diana. But according to the account, Charles Spencer allegedly viewed the pattern differently. And that is where the story becomes uncomfortable. Because Diana's relationship with the media was already complicated. Her 1995 Panorama interview became one of the most controversial chapters of her public life after the methods used to secure the interview were later exposed. Charles Spencer had introduced Diana to Martin Bashir, reportedly believing he was helping his sister. The revelations surrounding the interview later raised serious questions about manipulation, deception, and the media's treatment of Diana. So imagine looking at another proposed production about Diana decades later. Now imagine that production is designed for a massive streaming audience. And imagine that Diana's experiences are being connected to another major public figure. According to the source account, Charles Spencer may have seen an uncomfortable parallel. Diana's pain had once become television. Her private struggles became headlines. Her vulnerability became entertainment. And the fear, according to the source, was that the cycle could happen again in a different form. That is why the alleged Netflix rejection carries so much weight in this story. It was not necessarily about whether Diana should be remembered. It was about who gets to tell that story, and how. Then another layer enters the picture. The source describes a possible strengthening relationship between Charles Spencer and William. For years, the public conversation has focused almost entirely on William and Harry. Their disagreements. Their distance. Their competing public lives. But Diana's legacy connects both brothers, and Charles Spencer has his own reasons for protecting that legacy. If William and Charles Spencer were becoming closer on matters surrounding Diana's memory, the situation could become even more complicated for Harry. Because a refusal from Buckingham Palace could be presented as institutional opposition. But a refusal from Diana's own brother would be much harder to frame that way. It could instead be portrayed as family protection. And that would place Harry in an uncomfortable position. How would he publicly challenge the decision of the man who is, after all, his mother's brother? And what happens if the person protecting Diana's private legacy is increasingly aligned with the people Harry has become estranged from? Those questions are what make this story so compelling. But the biggest issue may have been the material itself. Because access to Diana's private archives could be priceless. A handwritten diary is different from another newspaper photograph. An unseen home video is different from another television interview. Private family footage can reveal moments audiences have never seen. And if those materials remained locked away, Netflix would have to build the project around material the public had already consumed. That changes the value of the production. The exclusive element disappears. The vault remains closed. And Althorp remains private. The impact would not necessarily stop there. In Hollywood, consequences do not always arrive through dramatic public announcements. Sometimes they arrive quietly. A phone call does not come. A meeting gets delayed. A project loses momentum. Executives begin asking different questions. And reputations can change without anyone officially announcing that they have changed. That brings us to the uncomfortable question at the center of the source account. What happens to Harry and Meghan's brand when the Diana connection becomes less available? Their royal story created enormous global attention. Diana adds another emotional dimension to that story. But if that connection cannot continually generate new material, the Sussex brand has to stand increasingly on its own. Harry has his own projects. Meghan has her own ambitions. But the challenge is simple. Can they create the same level of worldwide fascination without constantly returning to the royal family, and without relying on Diana's legacy? According to the source account, Charles Spencer may not have been trying to damage Harry or Meghan. He may simply have been protecting something he believes belongs to Diana and the Spencer family. That distinction matters. Because saying no does not automatically mean launching an attack. Sometimes saying no means establishing a boundary. And if the reported rejection really happened, that boundary appears to be very clear. Diana's memory may be globally famous, but her private world still has guardians. Her family still has a voice. And Althorp still has a door. For now, according to the source account, that door remains closed. The private material remains private. And another Diana production may have to move forward without the exclusive access it reportedly wanted. But the bigger story may only be beginning. Netflix can develop another project. Harry and Meghan can pursue another direction. And whatever relationship exists between William and Charles Spencer could continue evolving away from the public spotlight. But one thing has become impossible to ignore. Diana's name still carries extraordinary power. And wherever that power is involved, questions about ownership, memory, privacy, and family boundaries are never far behind. So perhaps the biggest question is no longer whether the Althorp door was closed. It is this. Can Harry and Meghan build their next chapter without ever needing that door to open? Because if they can, the story changes completely. And if they cannot, Charles Spencer's reported forward response may become far more significant than anyone initially realized.